Hey everybody, this is Rydo and we're back with another stream of Magic the Gathering Arena. Today is Friday, March 20th. Maybe starting a little bit early. I don't really have any feedback ever on when is the right time to stream, but starting nearly at 6:45 Central Time is maybe a little early, but my back and I'll try and keep this as my one complaint about my back today. It's just gotten so bad that even just the instant I sit down in a chair, it's starting a countdown clock. For a brief time, only the ranked draft of Ravnica Allegiance was on display. We've come back now a day later and they have the Brawlers Guildhall being promoted and the Theros Beyond Death ranked draft. If I needed to do any more ranked drafts, I would do another Ravnica Allegiance. However, I believe we are set, and I would like to have some gold to at least open 30 packs, which means we need about 10,000 more gold when all is said and done in the next 26 days. See, we have 2 gems, and we're just going this way. Oops. It has a suggest pick option. Why would it specifically suggest that? I don't know. But we'll just go in order. We're gonna get them all anyways. This mastery tree, not as good as the previous one, the Throne of Eldraine one, because there really aren't any choices there or even a real motivation to play one color first. It makes the false assumption here that anybody that pays for the mastery isn't going to work really hard to get all of the mastery orbs and thus all of the skins. If there is somebody out there that spent that extra gems, that extra money, or paid real world money for the mastery pass and then did not make it to rank 90, I don't know what they're doing at that point. They would have to just be playing so little fewer than I'm playing, and I'm not really playing that much, or just somehow so incredibly bad at Magic that they might as well just give up playing Magic. I mean, if you can't get as many victories as I'm getting, you're just so below the curve. And sure, you could make the argument that I did play Magic back in the Ice Age days, so I know some of the basic concepts, and I have been playing Hearthstone for a couple years, so I've kind of more experience there in just collectible card games, but that isn't really the best argument. The question here we'll ask ourselves is, can we make it to platinum? That's what we want. Otherwise, unless they were going to throw in a free ranked draft or a free traditional draft, it feels like one of these should be a traditional draft instead, but they don't want people playing traditional, they only want people playing standard. Okay, apparently we can play this event to get a skin, so let's do that. We've got a brawl deck here we built a long time ago. Is there something we want to do different? Or do we want to just try and play this? I mean, we could apply styles. And we could think about doing the Witch's Oven. I don't want to even reach over to my keyboard to type in Witch's Oven, though. Oh, this sucks. Alright, we'll just do it real careful. so I don't twist myself. Alright, well, you can only have one of each card. Is that a thing in Brawl, that you can only have one of each card? That does change the idea. Certainly. Yeah, that definitely changes the way you would play Magic. And Brawl, if that is standard how Brawl is done. Brawl is something I still don't fully understand. Or maybe I'm confusing Brawl with Commander even. Yeah, I think I am. I think Commander specifically is a gameplay style that is not run by Wizards of the Coast at all. The rules are made up by some other committee, and they just happen to use Magic cards. I suppose you could do that, but you would always be in this legal problem. Like, people would, unless Magic gets behind it or stays silent, Wizards of the Coast could probably sue people for using cards. What Magic doesn't want to have happen is for their cards and their art to, even their older cards and art, to become like public domain. Knights I control. Interesting. Well, it probably won't control any knights. Yeah, so yeah, if people could just make up different gameplay styles and they became more popular, and then you were just using Magic cards for those different gameplay styles, that might hurt the control that Wizards of the Coast enjoys over the Magic community a little bit. Still, it doesn't really get you any closer to being able to avoid a lawsuit if you were printing your own Magic cards, or reprinting existing Magic cards. Alright. That did nothing. So I just wasted my turn there. And I need to remember to create food tokens and cycle. I've already missed one cycle. 3 damage to a character. Okay. Is there any reason why I'd want to create a food token there? Not really. I mean, I could have, but then I couldn't have done this. I'm playing this Brawl and being limited to one character per, one card per deck definitely puts a higher value on every single card. Brawl definitely feels like a style of gameplay for people that have a much wider variety of cards than you normally would expect. It eliminates the ability to play 4 mediocre, probably draft trash cards and somehow get some value out of that, because if you're only playing one mediocre draft trash card, there won't be any synergy there. We can clearly see that, because this would be a much better strategy if I could have 4 Witches Ovens and 4 Cauldron Familiars. That would massively increase the odds of me getting and drawing those cards. What does this do, by the way? Target creature you control gains death, touch, and lifelink until end of the turn. If it's a vampire, put a 1/1 counter on it. Yeah, I think that'll work. And let's just go ahead and do no attacks this turn. So, despite difficulties, I did manage to start playing Curse of Monkey Island. I've never played Curse of Monkey Island before, but boy does it seem slow. It's just really, really slow and really, really simple puzzles for the first act at least. I'm probably halfway or near the end of the second act, which is really, I think it's going to have a lot of short acts, maybe not even that many short acts. But it is just a lot of talking, and not like conversation puzzles where you can pick the wrong conversation and that have a different outcome. I would say, even if you were gonna not compliment Ron Gilbert, who worked on Monkey Island 1 and 2, Monkey Island 3, that doesn't have Ron Gilbert involved, is way wordier. So at the very least, I would say he was probably a good editor. Let's see. Okay. So we just put it on this vampire, and that'll give him Death Touch and Lifelink, or it should. And a 1/1 attack. So, just like that, they gave up. Good, fine. It gives me a victory that gets me done with this brawl. I really don't have any interest in playing brawl. Let's just be honest there. Nice card. Nice card from a genre I don't recognize. Maybe it's the new expansion. Or maybe it's a legacy card, a historic card. Alright, good thing I looked at that, I suppose. Because we did get a new card, but still not really interested in playing Brawl. Let's see. This is not playable in Standard, this card. So it's just some older historic card, and maybe they're gonna expand historic in that fashion where we get a lot more things, individual cards given to us as rewards instead of having to purchase them in anthologies. I still don't feel like historic, though, is fleshed out as well as it should be. If I was going to make a deck here and then select historic, which, take note, you can only make a standard historic traditional singleton. I don't even know what that is. Brawl or friendly brawl, direct game, artisan, limited, popper. All right, there's way too many ways to play, particularly when you know that there's that factor. Historic seems like it can play pretty much anything. Because like it doesn't really feel like there's any limitation. The newest cards, Thirst Beyond Death cards, seems to be allowed. And let's see, do we have any Jalaxian cards? The oldest cards, Jalaxian cards, are allowed. And one would assume that historic anthology cards are allowed in a historic deck. So that's just going to leave a garbage deck that's invalid way down here at the bottom to delete. Yeah, so Curse of Monkey Island, I'm not really having the greatest amount of time. Ooh, this is a weird way it, when you scroll up, goes under that top bar. I would have preferred the top bar to be solid. It kind of seems like it's solid everywhere else. It is actually see-through, but it seems like it's solid. Hey, we don't even have to worry about colors, so we really are just going to play standard rank today. All day. And get rid of all the news as fast as possible. I really don't have anything other to say about Monkey Island. I'm only maybe 2 hours into the game, and already I'm mostly staying silent, either because the game is talking over me for very long times. It's like 20 minutes in a room, accomplishing nothing but talking to people often. Seems to be the standard method of operating. It's just way too talky. So even in the game content, I'm barely saying anything. So there's nothing to say there. I did need to upload videos, and I didn't do that. I need to upload and schedule videos way more often than I do. The workflow for that is just so bad. OBS updated with a hotfix, so immediately as it updated, it needed another update, which begs the question, what's the point of a beta if your beta is not going to successfully catch bugs? I did find that the audio bug, which we're still dealing with on Magic Arena, has been reported, and I voted it up. It has only like 33 upvotes, so and it's like on the second page of the bugs page. There's a there's a report a bug button here that clicks to a link to a website. If you want that fixed, it'd be very helpful if people went and voted up the already existing issue of the audio not playing in the background when it should. We've gotten no updates or hotfix for that, which that is a bad statement on the concern and the amount of support that Wizards of the Coast and I guess their parent company Hasbro really seems like they're going to put onto the software. Magic Arena is fairly buggy. It's buggier than Hearthstone, and that's not a helpful thing, certainly, to have the software not inspire confidence. We also run into quite a lot more instances where it feels like, and maybe it's just a misinterpretation of what the card is supposed to do, but it often will run into things that feel like bugs where the cards don't seem to do the thing that they say they do. But also we almost have some guaranteed bugs where we've seen cards do things different or just not work, and then there's not a great reason for it to react that way. There's even been at least one instance where no cards had been played, no cards were on the field, on the opponent's field, and yet still the card did not work the way I would have expected it to. Okay. So, pass here. We block here. Block. Activate that. Submit that. Put that on the field. We may not win. My hope on this is that this plus this is a game changer. and convinces him not to attack next turn. Otherwise, he just, well, no, there's kind of no reason for him not to attack, because he will just attack with this and this, and I'll lose. So game over, I've lost. Alright. So, one of the biggest things that occurred was the PlayStation 5 GDC press conference. They did a really bad job of telling people how exactly dry that experience was going to be, and they intentionally led people to feel like it was going to be a reveal of images of the hardware, which they really didn't show, or announcements of games. It would have been very helpful if for them to simply put a video in front of what seemed like a pre-recorded, very edited presentation, lecture, effectively. Oh, you know what I could have done? It wouldn't have helped me, but I could have sacrificed that guy for 1 health and gotten a couple extra health and maybe survived. But probably not. If I'd played slightly different order. So it does make a weird situation then when you have you have no new information. Furthermore, it's a bad situation for Sony because it's not like they announced or said anything that was amazingly better than the Xbox Series X. There undoubtedly are some fanboys that try to make that opposite argument, but with the only factor that was mentioned that was faster is possibly a faster throughput, but a faster throughput is then countered by a variable CPU and GPU rates, which means thermal throttling is almost certainly going to be a thing. On the other hand, it might be that the Series X is just really noisy with a big fan in it. You have to kind of wait and see the real world performance on that one. But I kind of doubt that, because when you look at the internals of the Xbox Series X, that thing is clearly built to dissipate a lot of heat. Whereas the mock-ups that we've seen that have, as far as I understand, still not been confirmed by Sony, those are maybe designed for a little bit of heat dissipation, but I don't think it's doing as good of a job as the Xbox Series X design. If anything, the Xbox Series X design might be just a new standard from a bottom-up heat flow design for computers. That is the direction we've been going. They've been going for a while now, where they want the power supplies at the bottom of the CPU cases, so that they can act kind of get away from the heat near the CPU and leave room for a water cooling block radiator if you're going to add that to your computer. Feel like I'm particularly monotone today. Apologies for that. It is Friday, and we are getting some anime-looking probably adult games back on Steam. So that seems to still be the case, that every 2 weeks on a Friday you'll get that announcement. I guess I can mention that Doom Eternal is now out. Yeah, so it's very possible that people will play that. Does this guy have menace? Can't be blocked. A power of 2 or less. That sucks. So if I was to do something like this, and then something like this, I only have 2 mana still. And I guess I could attack with this, and then it'd be up to him if he wanted to defend. I guess I lose nothing for trying. And he loses 2 life. But yeah, it's definitely going to be weird having Curse of Monkey Island, which feels like it's going to go long, air and take up an entire month's of time spots. It was going to be weird anyways, but if it goes like a month and a half or 2 months just because the game is way longer and I'm making 30-minute episodes, that's going to be weird, but I really can't do anything about it. Like, I can't make more content. I'm getting driven crazy. I don't know if that is because other people are going crazy in social isolation and that is rubbing off on me, because honestly my life hasn't changed one bit in the social isolation. I was already doing that, so I very rarely, maybe once a month at most, leave my house to get groceries, and then I'm just working on YouTube channel, pretty much failed YouTube channel, and amongst other hobbies and other things I rarely do. But I've just been really bored. I've installed like 3 other mobile idle games and already uninstalled 2 of them. I'm trying Alter Ego as a like self-mental evaluation cold reading type experience that's an idle clicker, and it is certainly worse for wear in the fact that it is a idle clicker game, because that element does not integrate well with the story it's trying to tell, or the books it's trying to promote people to actually read. Darn it. Plus, with my ad blocking enabled, you can't watch the ads they want you to watch in Alter Ego, and thus you can't get the rewards that they're offering for watching those ads. So that you have a worse experience just when their software can't connect to ads. But you also have a pretty crappy experience when it can connect to ads, because it takes this dark thematic broody narrative and just poops all over it with just standard Google ads for things like Arkanites and such. And then like a couple other idle games that are anime girls and some level of lewd costumes, but they kind of all suck, frankly, as gacha games, as idle games, because you get these flat chibi art style 2D characters that often are just, in the 2 I've played, are just kind of constantly running from one side of the screen to the other side of the screen, or just really running in place and fighting other characters, and the only actual effort in any of the art is just a card, which if you're Japanese, it's like card battling, card collecting mentality, but the actual animation that you see most of the time is not the good art, it's the low effort art, and that sucks. Alright, well, you're dead now. So, yeah, there's kind of nowhere to go with that. Unlike Destiny Child, where Destiny Child, it is still a gacha game, but it treats its customers right. It doesn't show incredibly huge ads in your face non-stop. There's no timers in Destiny Child that pops up a ad. You see the announcements that are partial ads when you log into the game. They want you to log in once daily for login rewards. That's pretty much it. If you go into the shops, you'll see the shops have items for sale for crystals or real world money type stuff, but you can very easily play Destiny Child as a free-to-play game. And then when you actually get in the battles, you're seeing very nice art that they actually put effort into of the characters that are on your team fighting the enemy characters, which is very nice 3D models or live 2D models. And there's no secondary art style that's lesser in it. There's a real reason to want to get skins to make your characters look different because you actually see it. There's a real reason to want to keep on playing and watch the game as it plays itself, even if you're doing nothing. I tried Lego Legacy, which is kind of the exact same game but for kids as Destiny Child, and it's just another gacha game. Although in Lego Legacy's point, I think it's been pretty much already abandoned, so I don't think you're going to get any more minifigs, and there's a rather limited number of them. So the game seems like it doesn't have any lasting momentum in it, and it really is just not the right kind of game for a Lego product, in my opinion. The idea that you are just unlocking minifigs via a gacha game and via a game that clearly wants you to pay money is just a bad idea for kids games. So yeah, I'm really only finding Lego Destiny Child still enjoyable enough to want to actually keep on playing it. Right. So the funny thing here is, I guess I can just do whatever I want. Like, we're just gonna have to tap and tap and tap and end the turn in this game until we get Bull Citadel or we get the Cauldron Familiar, and then we can start playing. But as long as I have enough characters on the field to block his attacks, we should be fine. Alright, so moving on, we have a game on Steam called Fireflies, which looks like it's a pretty dark screenshot syndrome style game, but there might actually be something here. I would guess it's kind of a platformer of some sort. Yeah, platformer, box pusher, a little bit of parkour. I think the idea is that you're supposed to have light sources and it's playing around. So you're a firefly. $9.99, English full audio. I'm willing to put this on the follow list. I actually did buy a game, which I have such a backlog of games anyways. It's kind of silly, but I bought the Right Shanty game that I was missing, I hope. And that way I can actually play them in order, and that opens up that doorway to keep on playing the games I actually want to play. Let's see. Game Sutra has the 5 highlights from the PlayStation's big PS5 system architecture deep dive. If you want to look at it, really all you need to do is, you've probably already seen a chart that compares the five categories and see that in 4 out of those 5 categories Xbox Series X beats it. Now you could speculate without any real evidence that means the Xbox Series X will be more expensive. If it is $100 more, that could be a contributing factor to which one sells more, but that's kind of it. The backwards compatibility issue, I think, is being missed for the Xbox Series X, where they say all Xbox games are going to be backwards compatible in one way or another, and PlayStation is only saying PlayStation 4 games will be backwards compatible, which, if they were to just have a FPGA or something that just reprogrammed the circuitry to act like a PS3 or a PS2 or a PS1 to play those old games, that would be amazing, and that would convince a lot of old school PlayStation fans to get the PlayStation 5. But that's not what they're offering. So it really is just going to come down to price point, and the bigger issue that people will overlook is it's going to come down to relationships. We have seen that Microsoft says out loud, and that's all we can really take from it, that they are interested in maybe owning a company in Japan and increasing their relationships in Japan, where we've seen PlayStation, Sony, do practically the exact opposite of that. They're alienating their partners. We see more and more things that were PlayStation exclusives now becoming PlayStation and PC games. I wouldn't be surprised if we start to see the trend become more PlayStation exclusive games becoming PlayStation, Xbox, Switch, and PC games, just going for all the consoles. We're seeing a lot of PlayStation games, if they don't jump to the Xbox, they then jump to the Switch and just lower their graphics. So those relationships are going to be are what I think they're dropping the ball on, and business can be described as a game of making relationships. And so, yeah, we didn't see any games get announced, and it would be very helpful for them to announce games and just tease them. I saw a YouTuber make the argument that the Xbox Series X in some form or fashion has been talking about games that was going to be on it, or talking about the hardware for nearly 2 years, where the PlayStation 5 has barely put out any information at all. Let's see. I pretty much got a victory here. This happened right as we were wrapping up streaming yesterday, and so did the PS5 presentation. Good thing I didn't wait for that. The Steam Game Festival Spring Edition is here. It's a basically just promotional event showing a bunch of indie games, none of which, as you look at this list, are recognizable, or to me at least. Maybe Haven is new. Raji, I think I've heard of. And that, I think, is it. So, I do think I had that link open. So we'll see if there's Oh wait, we could actually look at the page. Alright. So yeah, here it is, Steam Game Festival. These games you can play for now for free. Heaven's Remains looks alright. Subliminal. These are like time demos, I guess, if I was, and not the full game. Karen. I don't really know how you pronounce that. Karen, I think. Let's see. I feel like I missed a turn to sacrifice my guys, probably because I wasn't paying enough attention. It's gonna be really hard to move up on the ladder if I'm not paying enough attention to even play the game the way I should be playing it. There we go. We can speed up the process a little bit now. We have a game called Chicory, Welcome to Elk, Heavenly Bodies, Eldest Souls, Neverynth, Roki, Garden Story, Aeolus Tournament, Ember, Haven, yeah. Coffee Talk, that game I believe is already out. There's Raj. A lot of these are just things that are really, really indie. These would have been games that would have probably been giving small speeches, not big time speeches, from at GDC, and so or maybe this has more to do with the video game awards, but because I think the first one of these festivals was announced during the Game Awards, and I think the idea they're just going to take that idea and expand it to a quarterly thing to pick their winners and losers and promote specific indie things, up and comers, kind of like the trending page on YouTube, which probably isn't a terrible idea, considering so many games get released on Steam, and it is a slightly more libertarian idea than curating the storefront, which they don't want to do. Valve News Network made a interesting video talking about what he calls Valve 2.0 and how they're back to making games, and they've probably abandoned hardware and a lot of other things, and that they're trying to kind of retcon the fact that they didn't really do anything for almost a decade and trying to make Half-Life 3 and just failing over and over again. But then he also makes the argument that the established Rockstar employees who have kind of secret power that is not institutionally admitted to, so there's effectively like a shadow government inside of Valve that has a tendency to rule chaotically, that as a concept, and those people are still very much there in Valve, and they're not really going to go anywhere anytime soon, so unless those guys are going to really just actually let games be made, unless they've all changed their tune, it's still very possible that that people are going to work very hard to make games, and then some Rockstar is just going to cancel it. They're kind of like movie producers in that way, where like you get a new person in charge of a movie production studio, and then they just immediately cancel everything that wasn't their idea. And then, yeah, Valve News Network did make the argument that there's probably a lot of people that worked at Valve and wasted a lot of their life working at Valve trying to do the same thing as make a game like Half-Life Alyx, and they got shot down or they got fired because of their peer reviewing scheme. So there probably were programmers that were treated unfairly in a job, which is to say that's pretty common in the video game industry, or just working in the United States in general. It's not unheard of for people, if your boss doesn't like you, to underappreciate you or treat you unfairly. That's one of the inherent flaws of having human beings running in jobs in general. Well, you were so concerned about getting rid of that card. That's an odd choice. But I guess maybe he needed to do that to make sure that that could be on the field. Moving on, TechRaptor has an article here. Blizzard reveals a new futuristic Overwatch hero called Echo. Seems like there's a small amount of hype around them releasing new character. Probably a little bit more hype than we've seen compared to the last Overwatch hero announced, but not really anything of a lot of interest as far as I'm concerned. I couldn't care about Overwatch, and I just think its established player base will be there and keep on playing. I don't think Overwatch players are going to jump overnight, switch to some other kind of game like Resident Evil Resistance or something. Resident Evil Resistance is kind of a great example of a game that maybe, just maybe, will be popular for 2 or 3 weeks, and that'll probably be it. This guy is just ruining me. He's wrecking me. Alright. So, we need this to kill the strongest guy they have, which would be this. And then we block the other second strongest, and then we've got a 2, a 3, 1, 1. Click block, sacrifice that, sacrifice this. The only thing that would save me is Bola Citadel the next turn, and I don't even know if Bola Citadel would really save me, because at this point I'm going to take enough damage that there might not be enough recovery from it. Yeah, 14 health is going to be tight, and we just didn't get Bola Citadel. Alright. Is there any reason to keep screwing around with this, or do we just concede and move on? Let's just concede and move on. Like, save ourselves some time. We're just falling further and further down the path. And I would not feel confident playing anything else at this level other than the Out for Blood deck. Alright, so Gematsu has the comparison here from the PlayStation 5 to the PlayStation 4, which that comparison does show major improvements. 8 Zen 2 cores at a variable frequency of up to 3.5 compared to 8 Jaguar cores at 1.6 gigahertz. There was a lot of talk in the old days that you literally could not get a core to get even up to like 2 gigahertz. I probably was talking, I just don't remember it, of even getting a core up to 1 gigahertz. And there's probably a lot of cheating to get those frequencies also, but it is pretty jaw-dropping that we are approaching 4 gigahertz cores without cheating it incredibly by just adding more threads per core. You can see the GPU has like 10.28 teraflops, which is still less than the Xbox Series X compared to the PS4's 1.84 teraflops. But if you are going to just say it's 10 times better, I would estimate you could conservatively say then take the price of a launch day PS4 and multiply that by 5, or maybe the price of a PS4 right now and multiply that by 5 to be about half the price, is 10 times better. Double the RAM, but still not even really up to 32 gigabytes. They're increasing the speed of the RAM, but not increasing the amount that I would like, because I have like 32 gigabytes in my PC and I don't even think that's enough, particularly with all the tabs I open. Memory bandwidth here is about 3 times faster, so memory RAM speed hasn't improved. The SSD will be a major improvement. The I/O throughput is the one thing that they have better than the Xbox Series X, and massive improvement. Expandable storage in the PS5 will be an NVMe SSD slot, but because there's no standard height requirement for those, any NVMe that's slow or that has to have a large cooler on it very well may not fit, and they're going to have to go through a certification process to determine whether they can recommend, whether Sony will recommend certain NVMe's for PlayStation 5. Whereas the expansion slot on the Xbox Series X looks like a proprietary Seagate memory card looking device, but it's using a new interface that really hasn't established an external connector, so that might just become the de facto industrial standard connector. So newer devices may literally just use what the Xbox Series X uses. On the other hand, that connector has a flaw that USB-C has already corrected, in the fact that it's almost certainly not reversible. So I don't know why you would make any new connector standard these days where the pins aren't reversible and you can't just flip the thing upside down or right side up willy-nilly. Like that should be a built-in concept, frankly. And then compared to the PS4's Blu-ray drive, this will be a 4K UHD Blu-ray drive. I thought the PS4 already could play 4K UHD Blu-rays. I don't know if that really matters anymore. It's been a really, really long time since I've bought a DVD or Blu-ray, and I would have to pretty much just delve into a hoarding insanity to want to go buy some DVDs. Well, actually, there's probably some old anime DVDs that I probably should buy if I was rolling in cash, just because the odds of them getting a reprint in the next decade are iffy, and things like anime don't tend to stick around streaming services as much as I would like them to. But anything that isn't niche tends to stay on Netflix or Hulu or Amazon Prime or several other services. Let's see. Next turn, up to 1 target, gains vigilance and reach. Interesting. They gave vigilance and reach to me. Just because he wants to build up his loyalty. So, if that's what we're doing, then we need to just go ahead and attack. So, this here, this here, this here. Do we want to overshoot it? Yeah. Just overshoot it for safety. Death Touch, I don't think would kill a thing. Any amount of damage a source with Death Touch deals to a creature is enough to destroy it. So that's a creature, not a planeswalker. These are tagged as creatures. So Death Touch does not affect planeswalkers. And kind of obviously that was his only strategy. If he was so desperate to rank up his planeswalker. But yeah, it's still a lot to go before we can get to platinum. Gamatsu has an article here. Mystery thriller puzzle adventure game Evans Remains launches June 11th for PS4, Xbox One, Switch, and PC. Limited time PC demo is available. This one actually does look like a game that I want to put on the follow list. So it's part of the Steam Game Festival. It looks nicely animated. It seems like it's kind of just a simplistic platformer. I wouldn't be surprised if it turns out to be rather short. It has a teleportation mechanic. It's funny they're calling this pixel graphics, whereas I wouldn't really call this pixel graphics. I would just call this really zoomed out animation. That does not look like pixel graphics, although these are user tags anyways. So yeah, you can play it for now for 3 days, but then you can't keep it. So I don't know how much that's really worth your time to play a game like that. If I was really fast at making content, I suppose I could get demos of games like that and play them in 3 days, or try to play them in 3 days and do spotlights on them. But nah, then you're not supporting the video game industry that I kind of claim to love, even though I have it has a lot of elements I hate, and you're not owning something permanently, and I like to own things permanently, or at least somewhat permanently, as much as you can assume you own anything permanently digitally on Steam. TechRaptor has an article here. The PS5 stream was not meant for you, and I think that's fairly obvious. They really should just put a video up front. I also looked at the GDC live stream of the awards, and yeah, it wasn't amazingly great, but they were able to shoot footage from a remote location, give out all the awards, get all the awards winners to shoot from remote locations, and send back their acceptance speeches. So it worked. There was a lot less polished than it probably should have had. And then they had an interesting in memoriam section where they named a lot more people who had died that year than I recognized. And then they gave a Pioneer Award for the woman who was doing the art for the King's Quest Sierra games. She owned Sierra, her and her husband, and then retired and left the video game industry. I don't know if she left in disgust, but it kind of felt like she might have, which is probably about the only way you leave the video game industry, is in disgust. And then they just highlighted a bunch of indie games that seemed like decent choices to highlight. They weren't terribly insane choices for indie games, and they weren't pushing any overtly obvious agenda or anything. While a lot of the games that are indie games tend to do that, I didn't see a lot of awards going to like Beautiful Boyfriend Dungeon or whatever the name of that game is that still isn't out yet. I am noticing that several games right now are in the hands of video game critics, but they are not available for sale, and they haven't been, and the critics have had them for a month or two. That's probably always been the case though, so it's just when it becomes a little bit more obvious. I don't even know if I have these stories listed, but GameStop is desperate to not shut down its stores, despite everybody telling them to shut down their stores, calling themselves essential retail, which is bull, and getting pushback for that. Like, they also seemingly have broken the street date for the Doom Eternal launch, or they've pushed the release date of Amazon Animal Crossing. So either way, they're trying to have not two different audiences show up. If you bought Doom Eternal though and Animal Crossing, then you're gonna be fairly upset if you have to go to the store twice in 2 days. Although, in all honesty, even though GameStop is still remaining open, there's no legitimate argument to be made that customers should patronize the stores. Like, they should be empty. Like, if I was a governor or a mayor of a city or something, and I heard GameStops were staying open, I would send the health inspector down there, is what I would do. I'd just play some dirty politics and send the health inspector and tell the health inspector to find something wrong, which probably wouldn't be too hard to find something legitimately wrong with the cleanliness of the place, and shut down the buildings individually. And if that didn't work, I'd send the sheriff down and tell him to post an armed guard and not allow anybody in. And things like that. Or I'd send like local police department to have them and tell them to park 2 or 3 cars in front of all the GameStops, just taking up all the parking spaces, parking the wrong way, just blocking it and making it seem like a crime scene. Have the lights spinning and everything so people will avoid it completely. I would pull out super dirty politics, harassment techniques for the betterment of society. And I just lost. Well, that was stupid of me. On the more legal side, I guess it comes down to do governments have the right in the Constitution or whatever to shut down businesses in times of emergency? I think they probably do. Almost certainly they do. But then there is a more constitutional argument that you can't violate a person's freedom of assembly rights. But in a time of emergency, you're not going to really get anybody to to argue on your side of that. There's at least one story I've heard of somebody being effectively locked in their house because they signed themselves out of a hospital, and the hospital says that they have COVID, and they want a second opinion. And it seems like there's little due process for a person to argue that. Of course, it also might be that the person is just an idiot and doesn't believe in science at all, and so he's just trying to do his thing. Alright, so I guess I can pretty much close any tab I have open from the PlayStation 5 presentation, because that was interesting. Here we have the Australian classification board, and it says, as a result of the administrative agreement order, the functions that were previously the responsibility for the Department of Communications and Arts have been transferred to the Department of Infrastructure, Transport and Regional Development and Communication. Interesting. Says there's some shuffle there in the government. But the big video game news is Deadly Premonition 2 has been given an MA 15+. Why does MA mean 15+ in Australia rating? Which it says it has strong impact on themes and mild impact on language and drug use, and no nudity and no sex. Themes is kind of a generic descriptor. I don't know what they particularly mean when they say themes. I guess maybe violent themes or sexually suggestive themes, and yeah, strong themes and violence is what it says. But it was allowed in, so that's a step forward, at least for the Australian ratings board, who have a tendency to try to just straight up ban things. Yep. Australia is crazy. You would think it would be a bunch of anything goes wild liberals for the way they act laid back and act cool, but their government is actually extremely conservative, and I don't know where it comes from. And there's obviously somebody that's voting for these politicians, so yeah, I guess I just don't have a deep enough understanding of the politics and the feelings of Australian people. Kind of in the same way that most mainstream news sites, CNN, MSNBC and such, really don't have an understanding of all the people who voted for Trump. They came back after Trump was elected and felt like those people just magically appeared out of nowhere, instead of knowing and realizing that they've always been a part of the society, and they've just been ignorant or ignoring them. And they're still kind of ignoring them, which is going to be to their detriment, more than likely. Moving on, OpenCritic has an article here. Tales from the Borderlands sequel teased in a leaked trailer. The idea of a Tales from the Borderlands sequel from the new Telltale company, I assume, is an interesting idea, because that is one way in which 2K could make money off of the Borderlands series, which they own the IP from, without having to involve Randy Pitchford and Gearbox. But you can't really take that whole series and just turn it into Tales from the Borderlands 3, 4, 5, and 6 and forget about all the running, gunning, and looting, because that would just ultimately ruin the experience and the world building that you've put into the Borderlands series, for better or worse. You've put a lot of effort into it, So 2K would still need to find some other company. But I wouldn't be surprised if THQ Nordic announced that they're making Borderlands 4 and that it's going to be on a completely different engine. Well, it doesn't even have to be on a completely different engine. Borderlands 3 was on the Unreal Engine, so all you have to do is get some company that can make Unreal Engine first-person shooter games, and you're pretty well set. Let's see. If somebody came out and said the team that made Crysis 1 is making Borderlands 4, that would probably be amazing. Or if Epic was making Borderlands 4, that would be weird, but it's a possibility. That would be a particularly nasty stab in the back to Randy Pitchford after all the promotion he did for the Epic Store. If Gearbox got cut out of production of the next Borderlands game. But also, Gearbox is still in a quagmire because they need to make some other IP that they own besides Borderlands that they don't own. They need to expand and not just be an attempt at being a third-party publisher, which everybody tried that and it didn't really work that well. So we're just waiting for Bola Citadel, but he can make more and more rats, which is going to be a problem. And I can't really do anything other than tap this guy with the spinning wheel. Moving on, TechRaptor has an article, Light a Spark with The Last Campfire. I think we already talked about this game. So, TechRaptor just hadn't talked about it. Looks like it might be alright. Maybe, maybe not. This is just a hype article. And we need to burn through quite a lot. At the end of last recording, there was a article talking about how Sin episodes had disappeared. They've replaced it with this game Sin Gold, which they made some slight improvements on, and I think they got rid of the multiplayer completely. We'll scroll down and see. So this is the version of Sin that people now own. If you wanted the old version, you have to go pirate it basically and play it cracked. This is selling for $7.99 and it's single player. It does have online PvP and LAN PvP. It supports English and French. There was some improvements made here, but this is hardly a reboot or remaster. Apparently I cannot even put it on the follow list for some reason. In all seriousness, I would assume that the number of fans and people that are still playing Sin are a very loyal niche group, and there's kind of nothing else to do unless they were going to make a remake, and I don't even think a remake is going to be helpful. And we can block this, but we'd have to block it with two things. So instead we needed that. Alright, play that and then put that on the field. And put that on the field. So if I can just survive the next turn and not take too much damage and get relatively lucky with the card lineup, I should be able to win this. Let's see. Moving on. Gamata has an article, Code Realize Wintertide Miracles is coming to Switch on July 16th in Japan. It was first released on the PS4 and PS Vita in 2017. I feel like Code Realize is a series I've recognized. It's a visual novel, kind of obviously, but I can't really tell you anything about it. Nor do I really have time to look up the description, so I'll just mention it and then move on. He killed a bunch of my cards, and apparently I could not sacrifice them in a witch's oven. Let's see. So TechRaptor has a more detailed explanation. Sin returns to Steam with its Gold Edition, features Wages of Sin expansion and more. This cutscene here looks fairly nice, but actual gameplay seems to... Sin Gold is free to all owners of the original title, which I probably already I might already own, and that might be why I can't put it on the follow list, is that I already own it. So I just got freely updated. I mean, Night Dive Studio just like it's a pretty old game, and if you don't have nostalgia for it, even if this is like one of those games that was a competitor to Half-Life and does have some relevancy around that, it's not really enough to convince me that it's worth my time to play it. Alright, that's as much as I can do. I've lost. Like, I can sacrifice this guy. And then I guess I might be able to do this. If I can figure out a way this actually works, I will be amazed. Okay. If I sacrifice this, I can still do that. And just don't have enough cards. Could I activate this ability? Since he only has a few of those. Let's see if that works. Because this would do 1, maybe 2 damage, and this would do 10. So if I could get him down just a little bit. So here's what they say. The new edition features multiple changes and improvements. Players can now get to enjoy the Wages of Sin expansion pack, Steam Master Server support, 16:9 resolution, and remove IPX networking. That seems to be the main features worth mentioning. Right. Can we activate this and tap a creature? No. Do we want to block one? I mean, we could. We can block exactly one of these guys. Okay. Okay. We play this as black. play that. We do this. We do that. Next. I'm just gonna attack and see if he blocks or not. Okay. Gamma Sutra has an article here. Nexon to close down Maple Story 2 global servers this spring. So if anybody was playing Maple Story 2, that's getting shut down. So that's probably annoying to a small group of people that are playing Maple Story 2. I don't know really how many people that actually is though. Right. Three damage. So I have to submit that for sacrifice and then activate that ability. For more health. Alright, well that ruined me. Nothing wins here. Nothing wins at all. Because this guy's gonna do 1 damage to everybody. And then if I was to tap him like that, and then even manage to tap one of these guys like that, I still have got 3 damage here. So it's exactly 2 away. Too short. This is slow. TechRept has an article here. Gabe Newell is spending a lot of time on brain-computer interfaces. And here we have a picture of Gabe Newell. Now, in stills, Gabe Newell looks a lot healthier than the last time I saw him. But you still have a guy who is pretty huge. If you look at the knee height of this guy who has his foot on this floor and this guy, he's got a good, I would say 6 inches just on his knees. And of course he's got thick thighs, thick belly. He kind of has a ruler body type, so he doesn't look terrible. He's not just a big round blob of fat. His arms though are way thinner, but not anywhere the size of the arms of these skinny guys. I want to call them kids just by an age. You can see an all white beard, a ponytail, glasses. It looks like he's gotten a little bit healthier, but the last time I heard him actually talk, he was just losing his breath after 2 or 3 sentences, and it was very, very depressing. Now, as for the actual article, the brain-computer interface, you can see his hair is a little scraggly. He's kind of going with the surfer look. There's no way we're anywhere close to a brain-computer interface the way anybody really wants it to work. But people are just going to have to put in the work to get to that point where it actually makes sense. Yeah, there's some small, like, local simplistic MRI type technology you could implement to kind of get people's level of anxiety or something, or excitement, but that's about it. You're not gonna plug something into the back of your brain and start hearing music, because if we could do that perfectly, we would have way better hearing aids. You're not going to plug something into your brain and be able to see images, because if we could do that, we would have way better corrective surgeries for blindness and such. You're not going to plug something in your brain and then have this immediate instinctual understanding of how to control a character in a game. There's no legitimate way they're going to be able to reroute every single nerve on a brain stem to have it feel like you're moving your arm when you're not really moving your arm, or even scan when you are moving your arm. It would be way easier to simply have a simply just have, what are they called? Have 3D scanners in a room, just cameras in a room, just watching what you're actually doing to control a character. It also, like, this is kind of an unfair direct attack, but certainly would behoove Gabe Newell, as his body is not obviously the healthiest or the youngest. It behooves him to want to be able to plug his brain into a computer. And heck, my body is not the youngest and healthiest. It would be very nice if there was a brain interface that I could just plug into the back of my brain and then stream out and while lying in bed to have my back not spasm. Spasms have gotten particularly bad in the past couple days, to the point where I'm afraid I'm starting to feel like I'm going to fall down or drop my phone, things like that. Let's go play this. I played wrong. Should have played this first, but maybe not. Yeah, that actually would have worked. Playing this, then playing that. Wish I could undo that, but I can't. But I don't think we're anywhere close to that. And if Gabe Newell is interested in brain-computer interfaces, then doesn't that mean that effectively Valve is once again uninterested in making games, and they're trying to go back to hardware? There's a conflict in focus, and you can really only have one master as far as your focus, and people can't multitask. Corporations really can't multitask, not to a level of absolute success. So maybe it's a long shot science project that he's doing on the side, or maybe it's just an effective way for him to not have to have those deal with conversations about games. You would think if people are going to interview Gabe Newell, the thing he should be talking about is Half-Life Alyx and just VR in particular, since that is a VR game. Right, haste and trample. Do I want to kill that guy? I don't think I do yet. Gematsu has an article here. Treachery in Beatdown City Episode 1 launches for Switch and PC on March 31st. This looks like it says a beat 'em up game, if I were to guess. Okay. Seems like you've got like maybe a African kickboxer. I don't know what flag this is. A female boxer and then a Mexican wrestler battle out over 5 dense urban maps. I wouldn't be surprised if somebody has a complaint of a video game where a bunch of minorities are included in the game, and then you end up just having minorities doing minority on minority crime, and they complain about that. are beating up on each other. Okay. Gotta play that. And then I think we just kind of don't want to do anything. Gamma Sutra has an article here. Visual Concepts is hiring a software engineer. That's in Foothill Ranch, California. Although at this point, all of California is ordered to shelter in place. So, like applying for a job like that, in fact, applying for any job right now, is probably not going to be very easy to get accepted or get interviews, unfortunately. There is something I saw on the news now that people are getting like no hours. If you don't get assigned any hours and you're an hourly employee or temporary employee, if they don't give you anything in, I believe it's 14 days, not 2 weeks per se, but 14 days, then you've been effectively laid off and you can file for unemployment. Now, if you're a temporary employee and you don't have, if you weren't consistently employed for the last 6 months, unemployment might reject you. Although right now I'd say apply anyways, regardless, or I'd pretty much say apply anyways, because they may not look too hard. But there has been talk out there that employers are trying to convince people or avoid paying unemployment insurance by just saying, oh, you're still employed, you just don't have any hours. It's not the case. File for unemployment. You've been laid off if you don't have hours in the next in 14 days. I may be wrong about 14 days too. Look up the information yourself. But don't think that a company can give you no hours and call you an employee. That's not true. That doesn't work that way. And that is part of some shenanigans that some bosses will try and do to get people to quit, is cutting their hours, or just to make people miserable by giving them no hours or such. It's really a slimy thing, and it goes to show the difference between working a union job versus a non-union job, if I can make that comparison without getting yelled at. Union jobs, usually the very first thing they negotiate is that all of the members and all the employees there have to get a certain set number of hours, and bosses can't just flippantly change that around. Or often they'll negotiate that they have to be paid a certain number of hours. They don't have to actually work those hours. But yeah. So yeah, you're laid off. You're unemployed. Pretty much, a lot of people are going to be so rejected on that idea, because like a lot of people haven't been laid off. A lot of people have never quit or been fired from a job. A lot of people, it's a first time job, or they've just been there so long. They have that emotional connection to it. They have families to feed. They don't want to have to admit the truth that a lot of these businesses are going out of business permanently. When you see that a significant number of businesses are deemed non-essential and are being told to shut down, or they're deeming themselves as non-essential and being told to shut down, when you take a step back, that means, yeah, those businesses should have never existed in the first place. It would be a nice world if all people in the United States embraced a little bit of socialism, and they just took a check from the government, like what's being talked about, and they spent that check from the government on food and medicine. Well, they shouldn't even have to spend it on medicine or food, but they would get some kind of currency or some kind of credit to get food and medicine. But then again, I guess that the whole system is messed up. Like, you should be getting food as a human being. If you value human beings' life, everybody should be getting some form of food. Perhaps there's extra currency you can work for to get better food. Also, I would say this whole debacle with the shortages in the hoarding at grocery stores is another great example of the United States not doing the right kind of farming. Like, we're not growing our own food in our own country to feed our own people. We're growing soybeans and corn to turn into ethanol to dilute gasoline, and corn is used as just a filler in a lot of food for no reason, just because it's cheap and subsidized. If we could get more people to be slightly more vegan and vegetarian, we could use a lot of the land that's used for ranching and growing animals for instead growing crops. But self-sustainability would be the thing we would really like to do, and that's just not happening at all. Looks like we're gonna have to crash this one out because we're in a lockup. Alright, so 3 minutes now. Let's go and close that, and then we'll see if that makes me log back in. Please don't make me log back in. There we go. Back into a game. But yeah, a lot of the businesses that exist shouldn't exist. We've got better ways of doing things. We don't need retail stores for most items these days. I'd make a slight argument that there should be clothes stores to try on clothing. There should probably not be too many other kinds of stores. Clothing is almost an artistic thing, whereas like hardware and tools, you could just as easily order that from a state-run Amazon.com and just have things delivered. Grocery things, food expires and gets rotten, so while food could be delivered quite often, there's just too much of a risk of shortages. Toys, video games, things like that, easily all deliverable or all digital. And then boutique shops, pawn shops, used item shops. There probably is a reason to convince people to reuse items, so I can't complain about unique boutique shops that are selling unique items, or pawn shops selling old items. Beauty shops is just a little vanity, but I can't say it's a terrible idea, so I keep those open. But there's probably hundreds of stores you drive by in a day, or you usually would drive by in a day on the way to a job, that you have no intention of going. And we were having a rather major boom of CBD oil smoke shops and vape shops. Those things, I don't think they need to be local stores. And once you just start slashing and cutting the types and numbers of stores that exist, you potentially you potentially realize that there's considerably fewer people that actually need to be employed, or jobs that actually need to exist. Even fast food restaurants could be significantly fewer in the sense that if people just stuck with cooking at home and working from home, they would not be driving out and about, thus they wouldn't be buying fast food as often. On the other hand, schools need to exist. There is a huge concern that I have with the randomness of the quality of the homeschooling that kids will get. There will be good parents out there that do even a better job than an average teacher would do to homeschool their children. But the vast majority are going to either do slightly worse than what a teacher does, or way worse. Way worse. And in the United States, homeschooling kits, if they stop being provided as they are being right now for the public schools kids, if they stop being provided, you're going to see like next year's enrollment drop off of doing the public school education plan and instead using a religious homeschooling plan, which is really the only plans you can get in the United States otherwise. So you're going to see a lot of socially awkward, because they're not socializing with other kids, kids getting raised. You're going to see kids with varying levels of knowledge and large gaps of understanding. It's going to be very unstandardized. Already the education system is not particularly standardized, and you're going to see people that are terrified of getting germs and viruses in general, so they're going to be neurotic, and well, at least this is my fear, and they may also be hyper religious. So you could have an entire generation of awkward, cultish thinking, neurotic people that very possibly are going to think that the germs are divine retribution. And that's not a generation that's going to do well leading when they come of age. Oh man, I really don't have time to rant though, so what am I talking about? We have a game on Steam called A Plunge into Darkness, which looks like an RPG Maker game. Actually doesn't look terrible. Just looks like it's a little dark screenshot syndrome. Although when you look at this, they did seemingly bother to animate some characters. Much like the idle games I'm looking at though, you have the rarely used good animation and then the usually used smaller pixelated kind of chibi characters, and this is what you're going to look at for the most part. This is $5.99 discounted, $5.09 discounted, English only. About 4 hours of gameplay for $5 is a little low. But yeah, I got off on a whole rant there, and I don't even know how I got to that rant. I would say probably everybody's nerves are on edge, including mine. Anxiety. I'm watching too much 24-hour news. Actually, I'm watching way less 24-hour news because they've actually stopped talking about politics in the United States, and I found that kind of entertaining and enjoyable for as big of a mess as it was. But now they're just talking about COVID-19 over and over and over again, and I'm like, I'm checking in once every 12 hours to see what big horrible announcement has been made in that 12-hour period, and then I'm checking out again. And that is probably too much. This is probably the best way to start a hand, because the only real challenge here would be that they would eliminate cards from your hand and get rid of Bowl of Citadel. Next we have a game on Steam called Ostrief. I didn't really curate any games. This looks like a village management building game. It looks a little basic in the gameplay. It kind of feels more like just a building simulator, city builder. It's early access, $24.99. No discount whatsoever for an early access game. It's English and Ukrainian, which is suspicious. I always kind of question whether Ukrainian is actually just a Russian troll game doing a false flag operation and claiming that they're a Ukrainian company, or claiming that they support Ukrainian language. Although you could make the exact same argument if you were to say, well, maybe all the Russian troll games are actually false flag games made by some other country to blame Russians for making terrible low effort games. I doubt that's the case, just because of the veracity of it and the consistency of it, and the fact that there are practically no good Russian made games or Russian language games on Steam. So if they were going to really try and combat that, they should put out some decent games. Maybe the Metro Exodus series is Russian, but that's about it. Or the Metro series is Russian, but I don't even think that's the case. We have a game on Steam called TT Isle of Man Ride on the Edge. This is rated higher than I would have thought. I always feel like these motorcycle games are a little bit limited, because it feels like you should just be able to drive a motorcycle and a car in racing games. I'm gonna put this on the fall list, but it would have to be a pretty decent sales pitch to make me want to do it. It is rated mostly positive right now. We have a game on Steam here called The Explorer, which looks like a interesting game visually. Maybe you'd say it's a little bit asset flippy, but only by the smallest amounts. Like, you really can't call it an asset flip when somebody has spent the effort to design an entire region. Unfortunately, English is not supported. It's $22.99 and it's only Turkish. So this might be an interesting Turkish only gem of a game. Hidden gem. Unfortunately, I don't speak Turkish, so I don't think I can play that. I think I have to decline. So I'm just going to take this and then decline to use it. And then end the turn. No, that really sucks. Like, the vast majority of the time, seeing a game in a different language is not a problem because the game sucks anyways, or it's not that interesting. And it's not like we don't have hundreds upon hundreds of games on the fall list otherwise, but it does still really suck when you have something that looks interesting, something that actually I would consider playing, and somebody else just tells you, no, you can't play it because we didn't localize it. I was actually watching a GDC video on how you localize words in Unity. It wasn't a GDC video, it was a Unity video. And I'm a little surprised how much integration is in their engine to do that. I would have thought it would have been very bare bones and simplistic. That you very much would have just had to give your source code in its entirety to a localization team or hire somebody to work in your office that speaks that language and just have them hard code the language over and over again. But no, there's definitely some automation there that simplifies it a little bit, but not as much. It's not automating it. The one thing I would have liked to have seen in it is if there was just a button that says use Google Translate to do a rough translation. So if you were an indie developer and you wanted to try and localize your game, you would have to manually copy and paste every word, and then you would have to probably copy and paste every phrase, and there's a way to make word lists, and thus the phrase will be translated the same way every time, and the same words will get translated the same way every time. Okay, I might be able to win here, but it's gonna be hard. So, moving on, we have a game on Steam called Tiny Bunny, which looks like it is a horror, black and white, point and click adventure. Yeah. The video sells it, I think, a lot better than the screenshots do. Yeah, it seems like you go through kind of a story here. Might not even be really a point and click adventure. It might just be a visual novel story. But yeah, I think this is... Man, that is just horrific. The way they drew that. I think this deserves to be on the fall list. It's also free to play, so... it's English and Russian. Put it on the fall list. I guess if it's free to play, though, I probably won't ever actually play it. But I'll check it out there. And yeah, it might be a low effort story or game. Might be 5 minutes of content, but even if it was 5 minutes of content, being free, I don't know what the scheme there is. I don't know how you sell a soundtrack for $2 if there's nothing going on. Well, this guy is just cycling through every color like crazy. Apparently this guy's timer is burning down, not mine. Let's see. I think we may have lost here. But there might be a way to do this and save the day. Because if I sacrifice this after he does everything he tries to do. So we've now got trample and haste. Alright. So he's going to attack from everything. So what I'm going to do is block with this on that, and then block with this on that. So we block this one here, this one here, click block, then we activate this to sacrifice that. But all this is really going to do is save me one turn. And then I'll just lose the next turn. man, that didn't work. Because of trample, I guess. Well, we definitely aren't getting anywhere. Not anywhere fast. Next we have a game on Steam called Silent World, which looks like it's a platform puzzler, but it seems pretty dark. I don't know if I would ever really enjoy playing a spotlight dark game like that, unless there was a gameplay mechanic that really justified that. Trailer is really not showing anything. They're doing every trick in the book to hide the fact that the gameplay footage is minimal and boring. Well, this is $4.49, English, Japanese, Chinese, and Korean. I don't think this deserves to be on the follow list. Man, I need to fix that audio. Hopefully before Monday that audio issue will be fixed. Gamatsu has an article here. Gunka o Haita Nico for the Switch launches June 18th in Japan. This looks like this is a young maiden romance visual novel game. From the looks of it, an otome game. Yeah, otome visual novel, young maiden. Alright. Play this. Next. No attacks in turn. Next we have a game on Steam called Turnage Roboto. I don't think this is in English either. For $10.99. It looks to me like it's maybe a point-and-click adventure game, but it seems like you spend a lot of time using a in-game computer system. Says only the Polish version available. It's in Polish. Full audio, it says. Yeah. Interesting. But again, if it's not in English, I'm just not gonna put it on the follow list. I can't have games that aren't in English that in the hopes that someday in the future they will be in English. That's insanity. If they get a re-release version, one would hope that they would bother to announce that. And I would say at least the Japanese have usually the decency to not bother to put a game on Steam unless it's going to support English, even if it's not targeted to the West at all. Alright. No attacks in turn. Next we have a game called No Isis, and then a bunch of Asian characters. This looks like a dark horror visual novel, although it's tagged as an RPG free-to-play game. Yeah, here you have the cute moe art style of anime girls being contrasted with a horrific murder scenario by the looks of it. Yeah, and suppose as an artist you might make the argument that by telling a horrific story and then animating it in a completely opposite way, you might be able to lessen the impact of that horrific story while not having to self-censor yourself beyond the point you would like to when telling that story, or lose the reader's attention. So yeah, No Isis, free to play, Chinese and Japanese. Might be a Chinese game. Let's see. All characters are more than 18 years old. The game is not suitable for juveniles. The game contains violence and gore. Yeah. So this probably is a Japanese game if I was to guess, just looking at the art. Like, that doesn't strike me as something that a Chinese developer would do. Although the screenshots also don't really seem to show any real dialogue choices or anything, although I might just be misinterpreting it. The anime Magical Modica in particular did that trick where they were using young looking moe art style on the characters and then telling a very dark story that a lot of people seem to not expect. Guess I can attack with this one? Boy, am I just moving slow. Yeah, this is just the feeling I keep getting, is that, boy, that I'm just moving slow, moving really, really slow. Here we have a game on Steam called Dreamfly. It seems like it's a game where you just fly around. Is it a VR game? Yes, it is. It's early access. It's free to play. It's English only. Check it out if you're interested. There's probably been a couple of these games, and I wouldn't be surprised if there was just like some new tech demo, and people are just asset flipping this new tech demo. Instead of actually making even that simplistic type of gameplay. Come on. Think I can win here. Next we have a game on Steam called Vaster Claws 3 Dragon Slayer of the God World, which that's a long title for what looks like a Chinese RPG tactical game. I don't even know what you would call it. $17.99 discounted, English and Japanese. Ooh, I was wrong about that. I don't even know what the gameplay here is. I just see a bunch of menus. But yeah, there's just a whole bunch of menus, which makes it way too complicated for my interest. Alright, do I want to block any of those? I don't think so. Not this turn, at least. Let's see. Gamatsu has an article, Shoujo Jigoku no Doku Masume debut. Trailer details and screenshots are available. I feel like we had already talked about this game. Maybe there's a little bit more information. They do love to tease out the information. This screenshot has just way too much pink in it, way too much red, though. And this screenshot has way too much yellow, so feels like the art style is not, the color palette's not very good. But boy, does it seem like there's a lot of character in this RPG, so it does kind of have a Persona type feel to it. Let me see what the trailer looks like while people are trying to figure things out. This. Got him. We can do this next turn. We've got victory, and meanwhile we can attack with that. I'm jumping through the trailer, which I started playing and then immediately turned my eyes away from. Yeah, it feels like it's kind of a Persona feeling type game, although it seems like it's being made by the people that make Disgaea, so I don't think that's the people that make the Persona series. Though I could be wrong about that too. Be wrong about anything today. Next we have a game on Steam called Infinity Heroes. It looks like it's some kind of massive multiplayer card battler, if I was to guess. It seems like some basic cards that you play against each other. Early access, $19.99, English full audio. It's available for mobile and PC, which is better than Magic Arena was able to do. Still don't have a mobile version of that. I guess because it's a collectible card game, I'll put it on the follow list, but honestly, I'm gonna probably do a follow list cleanup right after the second Dinner Marvel collectible card game comes out, and in that Marvel list cleanup, I'll probably, after that game comes out, and I'm sure that's the game I'm gonna play, I'll probably just eliminate all other all other collectible card games and not even give them a chance. I don't even know if I need to do this, but I'm gonna do this just for safety's sake. So here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Is there one we want to get rid of otherwise? I mean, ideally, I guess you want to keep this Vindictive Vampire alive, if you have 11 or more cards. So that's 31 damage. So even if he managed to survive just the basic damage, I still have 12 more of those. I'd be back up to 20, and like such a decisive victory there, you'd almost want to get 2 pips for that, but you're not going to, unfortunately. We're really not making a lot of progress as far as killing your opponents. I may have to play off screen to get that done and just play something that's not ranked, and some experimental deck that's not built around winning with Bola Citadel. Next we have a game on Steam that's a bunch of Asian characters, and it's called Superpower Squad. It says it's an MMO. It doesn't look particularly interesting to me, and I wouldn't play MMOs anyways. Early access, $8.99 discounted, English and Chinese. I'm not going to say this is the worst looking Chinese MMO, but just at the quick glance of it, it doesn't seem like it has much going for it. Gamatsu has an article here. Root film delayed to July 30th in Japan, no longer April 23rd. We're almost approaching a point where games being delayed starts to not even be news, but it kind of always will be news as long as the date actually is being mentioned, or the fact that it's being delayed is being mentioned, even at that, because that is actually information people would like to know. Even if every single game gets delayed, it's still required reporting. Next we have a game on Steam called Dimension Reign, which looks like another card-based battler. Looks more like a Slay the Spire clone than a collectible card game. It's early access, but English is not supported. $16.09, Japanese only. discounted to $16.19. So since English is not supported in that game, I can tell you it's probably not going to get enough of a player base, and it's certainly not going to get my attention. Alright. Play this so we can start getting some hits in. Let's see. Komatsu has an article here. Death End Request 2 is coming to PC in 2020. The sequel adds a second platform for its Western release. I'm not sure if Death End Request is actually a decent game, or Request 2 is actually a decent game. It might be that the first one was good and the second one is bad. I do recall there being at least one Japanese RPG looking game that was like that. Although that was not a recent game, I don't think. Next we have a game on Steam called Terra Incognito, Antarctica 1911, which seems like an Antarctic survival game, which at the very least this is a different idea. Surviving at the South Pole, you're not going to have trees and resources, so it would be something close to an actual survival game. $3.19 discounted, English only. I'm going to put this on the fall list and see if people like it. Visually though, you're going to see a lot of snow, which would be appropriate, and this might be a lot like Don't Starve, and perhaps Don't Starve is just the better type of those games to play. Let's see, black, and then play that, and play that, and then attack all. Next we have a game on Steam called Submarine Titans, which looks like a 90s real-time strategy game. Yeah, I don't want to play an RTS underwater. There's nothing visually impressive about this. $4.99 English only. Yep, I'm just gonna skip that. We have a Twitch support thing here that actually is good news for a change. They've added more settings for channel leaderboards. Partners and affiliates can now select either top gifters or top cheerers as default leaderboards. Additionally, you can now disable either leaderboard independently. I didn't even know if that was the case. Well, I didn't even know leaderboards exist. In a Twitter feed that does nothing than completely highlight the failures of Twitch as a service, it is rather smart of them to actually highlight when they add new features or fix things or improve things without just fixing things that shouldn't be broken in the first place. Play that, and then we do that. We have enough for Bola Citadel, plus we have almost enough to activate Bola Citadel immediately also. I'm gonna go ahead and attack anyways. Yeah. Gamma Sutra has an article here. GoldenEye 007, Guitar Hero among the 2020 Video Game Hall of Fame finalists. The list for the Strong Museum Video Game Hall is weird because they do kind of just randomly pick things from random times. Like they have Bejeweled from 2001, they have Centipede, they have Frogger from 1981, Centipede is 81, GoldenEye is from 1997, Guitar Hero is from 2005. It's weird to think that GoldenEye 007 came out the exact same year as Curse of Monkey Island, because those two games look incredibly different. King's Quest is from 84. Minecraft is from 2009. NBA Jam is from 1993. Nokia Snake is 1997. Super Smash Bros. Melee is from 2001. Uncharted 2 is from 2009. And Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego is from 1995. I would argue Carmen Sandiego has the right to be in the list of successors, although all of those games are actually relevant, and it really should just be a case of all those games will win. I don't know why they're really stretching it out as if that is a factor that matters. They should just put all those games in this year, and they could think of another good list of 10 games or more for next year, and they could do that for quite a while. Like, you're really comparing apples to oranges. What does this do? Create a 8/8 blue Kraken creature token with hexproof. Sweet. That is way too good of a card, even at 7 mana. Alright, well, that has hexproof, so let's go ahead and tap that one. And that's all we can do. And they chose to do nothing. I don't even really need this. I could pretty much just attack. TechRaptor has an article here. Project Genesis brings Stellar Shooter and Space Combat to Steam this April. Interesting robot girl skin. FTL and first-person shooting combined. This is one of those hype articles. Maybe there's something there, though. Like, they probably do need a good 2 or 3 new first-person shooter type games. He wrecked me. Tap all non-land permanent opponents controls. They all untap during the controls. Wow, that card is game over effectively. Wish I had that card. I even have the deck that it would go in. Let's see. Next, we have a game on Steam called Within Whispers the Fall, which looks like it's probably a story-rich adventure game of some sort. Animation doesn't look amazingly great. Kind of feels like something that Big Fish Games would put out with as just a hidden object game. $14.99 English full audio. I'll put it on the follow list, we'll see. And then I would have to double check to make sure that the fall isn't just episode 1 of a longer series. Let's see. Here's that article I talked about earlier from Gamasutra. GameStop bumps the Doom Eternal release to cut back on in-store crowds. Let's see. So they broke either street date by releasing it on the 19th, or they had already planned to release it at a different time than street date, which would seem pretty crazy. So it does seem like GameStop might be pissing off the Doom Eternal creators. But I think they're just so desperate now that they don't care, and I think they probably won't get sued for breaking street dates there during that time. Although On the other hand, it is ZeniMax that owns the creators of Doom now, so ZeniMax is extremely litigious. Moving on, we have a game on Steam called Sector 40, The Soviet Legacy. This looks like this is a dark screenshot horror game. Just a low effort horror game for $17.99, English full audio. I'm not even gonna bother to put it on the follow list. Let's see. I see the beginning of the end, but it's still quite a far away away. Next we have a game on Steam called You Are the Best Egypt Chapter. Looks like an RPG Maker game, and I have definitely not seen any series called You Are the Best. $2.54 discounted, English full audio. Does this say? You are the memes with the courage and wisdom. Yeah, apparently this is straight up a troll game, if I was to guess. Or joke game, if you want to call it that. Next we have a game on Steam called Night Road, which looks like a dark screenshot RPG Maker game. Seems pretty simplistic and uninteresting. $3.99, English only. We'll just leave it at that. Trying to burn through all of this. Gamma Sutra has an article. Razer will start manufacturing surgical masks. A lot of people say they're going to be manufacturing things. The real question is how effective can they manufacture things? Are we going to just have a bunch of defective things that don't really work? Are we going to very possibly spread the COVID-19 infection because of poorly tested, poorly designed products? So there is either two ways you have to admit on something like this. Either the strict requirements that were required to manufacture medical devices in the United States were there for good reason, and I would say the requirements aren't even that strict in the United States, or they were frivolous and more companies could have been developing these things from day one. And I would say that's probably not the case. Alright. It's the next game. This next game has some magical steam, often used in animated things to hide nudity. So just making sure it's YouTube family friendly. So next we have a game on Steam called Magical Charming Chronicle Zero, and it's a bunch of anime moe girls and a visual novel. Although a lot of the text, there seems to be some other kind of system there, a kind of battle system, taking it away from just a visual novel. It's tagged sexual content and nudity. All girls, as usual, are drawn to be 18 years or older. English is not supported. It's free if you want to try it though, but it's only Chinese. That's weird. Oh, no, it's also Japanese. Like, I was thinking, wait a minute, why would it only be Chinese and drawn this well? Yeah. And then we can show off the magical steam if there's a screenshot here. Nope, I don't think there is. I think it... But yeah, here's the magical steam covering up everything. And the charming, I think, is kind of a mistranslation from Japanese. It's kind of like a darling moniker. A lot of times. But maybe it's not being mistranslated in this case. Because the phrase magical charming does kind of make sense. But also, that game is not translated to English, so you already know that they weren't really targeting to have a proper translation. Moving on, we have Nibiru Prologue. That game also, again, is just resetting the clock to show that seems like every 2 weeks on a Friday, the adult games are unleashed in very small quantities these days, though. So I feel like there's still a lot of curation and rejection happening in the background that's just not getting talked about anymore. Certainly there was a whole flare-up on Patreon banning some artists for making certain levels of adult anime drawings or something because they felt the characters were too young looking. And yeah, there was a bit of a backlash there. Patreon in particular is getting more and more political with who can use it and who can't. And it will almost certainly just be a matter of time until before there's a major competitor to Patreon out there instead of several minor competitors. Well, I'm doomed. Because if I don't attack, I'm just gonna have to defend. But I guess we'll see what happens here. Next we have this game called Nibiru Prologue. This looks like just a low effort asset flip first person shooter. Like, there's no enemies they're really showing you other than a plant maybe that you can pick up. And yeah, the menu is a mess. Looks like it has survival elements. It's free to play. It's English and Russian. Yep, nothing looks that good. I feel like Nibiru is a name of one of these Star Wars places. Right. Creatures must be blocked if it's able to do so. This might push me to the point where I can play Bullet Citadel, but I kind of doubt it. Right. Can I play Bullet Citadel right now? No. Can I play Bullet Citadel right now? No. I can do that. We could have done this first. Then we could have done this. So this could have been buffed up one more turn. Then we'll just go ahead and attack with that. Let's see, next we have a game on Steam called VR Mummy Girl, which this is unfortunately a tech demo that I think did itself a bit of a disservice by getting just a anime girl and then wrapping her up in mummy bandages. Although it's first-person perspective and you're playing in VR, so you're not even seeing the character. So this might as well have just been called VR Mummy. But maybe there was a reason they wanted to differentiate themselves from maybe the Mummy video game from the Mummy movie, reboot movie. Yeah, you kind of don't even see her even in the logo. She's just all wrapped up. The actual game sounds kind of interesting, that you would have some swinging abilities and movement abilities using mummy wrappings. It's $4.99. It's English and Japanese. I'm going to put this on the follow list and see if people actually like it. It's probably just a tech demo though. Like, there we go. Still totally screwed up. Again, I just feel like I'm moving really slow. Alright, we have a game on Steam called Storm Rage, which looks like you're in a walker mech and running around and doing some first-person shooting also. See, it's 10% off for $8.99 English full audio. I'm going to put this on the follow list just because I don't want to look at it anymore. I think there's a small chance that this could be good, but there's a lot of chance that it could be bad too. Right now we just gotta block this, this, and this. Okay. We gotta play Bola Citadel. And we've gotta hope that we can succeed. Put that on the field. Seriously. Destroy my other Bola Citadel. Right. Yeah, I'm not gonna win. I lost. And then I think that's gonna be the last game we play, and we're just gonna try and burn through the news otherwise. Let's see, you gotta defend against this, and that should win the game for him. I wouldn't mind if there was a few games left over for Monday, so maybe I'll kind of curate the bad games and leave the good games. We've not made really any progress today. Particularly 8 out of 25 opponents' creatures have been killed. 6 out of 15 wins. I was doing a lot better previously. So we have a game here called Man-Faced Spider 1, which is just an Arkanoid game with weird spiders from The Legend of Zelda. This is $6.99. Quite a joke at that price. Just really low effort game. I'm just gonna skip to the articles and let's get through them. Sega launches its 60th anniversary website. Sagata Sanshiro related announcement teased for March 25th. I don't even know what Sagata Sanshiro is, but I guess it's probably some kung fu fighting game. Probably a game, very possibly a game that didn't even come out in the West. This is an interesting article from OpenCritic. The Game Developer Conference has been rescheduled for this summer, which is weird that they're rescheduling it after they already put out their awards stream. But they kind of legally have to reschedule it just so that they keep the money from the tickets. And that's what's really going on here. I imagine it'll get rescheduled again if the COVID-19 virus is not mostly taken care of by the summer. Gamasutra has an article here. GameStop has paused its trade-in program for 9 days due to the COVID-19 concerns, which really destroys the idea of even wanting to go to GameStop at that point. Like, if you can't trade in games to get credit to buy other used games, then I don't know why you would want to go in that store and just not either download games directly or buy them off of Amazon. It would be an interesting experiment. I've never bought any used games off of Amazon. I guess you might be able to do that. Let's see. 16 hours ago, Magic Arena put this very weird, stupid question. So you're sitting at your computer playing MTG Arena, and the Jace puppet pet suddenly pops out of your screen. He dances across your desk and chants, "Choose one discontinued snack and I will bring it back." What snack do you choose? This just like a total BS ridiculous thing for MTG Arena to post, and doesn't have anything to do with Magic at all. And then they respond to themselves. Mine would be those Lunchable dessert things where you decorate a brownie and put frosting on a cookie. It seems like they let the intern in charge of the Twitter feed or something, because we really haven't seen things like that before. They've been fairly professional. They've been hyping up a lot of streamers on this stuff, but they really don't mention anything. They're going to do some scheduled maintenance on the 19th, so let's see. That whatever scheduled maintenance they were supposed to do didn't fix the audio issue. But yeah, just kind of unprofessional and not a good way to promote your brand. And that, yes, I know they've got this new advertisement that they've been trying to get by this, and you get these unsanctioned lands and the puppet all together from the store. What does that cost? If we can jump over there. Bundles. It doesn't even seem like that's being announced. So they're saying there's supposed to be some bundle here where you would get this and these and this all together. But I don't see that bundle. Maybe it was the Historic Anthology 1. Oh yeah, I already bought the Historic Anthology 1, so it's not even showing me that bundle. Moving on, TechRaptor has an article here. Fairy Tail delay lets the studio add new arcs and characters. Which, okay. Again, I'm not sure if the Fairy Tail anime is particularly popular. It's popular enough. They're actually, the manga writer of the Bleach comics had a spin-off comic that he's revising called Burn the Witch, which it's kind of weird to hear like there's anything more to be done with the Bleach series back when that was super popular, or as popular as any anime can be. Gamasutra has an article. GDC organizers plan a new 3-day GDC summer event for August 5th and 6th is the actual dates, in case you're interested. Gamatsu has an article. 2D platformer Winja is coming to the Switch March 26th. Do we have a video of Winja so we can kind of see what it is? It looks like it's not too much of anything that would interest me. It kind of feels like Ori and the Blind Forest and another platformer where you're jumping around would be kind of irritating. But then it also seems like you play as a cat, and that as an idea might be cool. And it seems like it's all about the platforming with no battle, and I don't know if I really would want that. Like, I would probably want some balance where I could stay on the ground and attack some things easier, and take a break from just tapping the A button over and over again. Gamatsu has this article. We talked about this. Shadow Man Remastered has been announced for the PS4, Xbox One, and Switch. The 1999 released action adventure game goes 4K. This Shadow Man series is owned by Valiant Entertainment as a comic book series. This is the Shadow Man Remastered logo. It looks a lot like the original thing. Unfortunately, they don't have any like trailer. If this is the way the game is going to look, then that is going to be a medium, a minor remaster to the original game, because this is pretty much the way the game looked originally. It was very dark in story and dark in what was being shown. Very low polygon ish. You spent the almost all of your time in the game in hell. So one would hope that these are not indicative of what the game is going to look like in the remaster really redoes the graphics, because otherwise it's going to be crazy. Let's see. The title is being updated using Night Dive's proprietary KEX engine, which has been used to restore classic video games across all digital platforms, including System Shock Enhanced Edition, Turok 2, Seeds of Evil, Blood Fresh Supply, and Forsaken Remastered. So their proprietary engine probably makes it fairly easy to remaster games of a certain age. Let's see, Gamatsu has an article here. Romance visual novel E-School Life is coming to the PS4 Switch in Japan on June 25th. A romance visual novel. I definitely would be excited to play Shadow Man Remastered, even if it really wasn't remastered. Like, I think I already own that game, so ideally I'd get that for free. But I wouldn't be surprised if they try to charge me again. But I do definitely want to play that game a second time and talk about it. Play it for the first time when it would be actually age appropriate for me to play it. Next we have a TechRaptor article, 7 games from PAX East 2020 to add to your wish list. So what are the games they're talking about? Panzer Paladin Suits Up. That doesn't look particularly interesting. Bonfire Peaks doesn't look particularly interesting. Red Wings, Aces of the Sky. They don't. It's just going to be a shooting game. There might be something here of some interest, but it looks like it's focusing on the Switch. Cyberhook doesn't look that interesting. Shiny brings something new to beat 'em ups. See, the problem, or Shing was the name of that. The problem with PAX is this in a nutshell, that the games that get announced at PAX are always these weird, super indie games that get no other promotion. they're kind of anti-hyped compared to every other game that seems to be really, really hyped. Then we have Colt Canyon. It's a Western pixel art game from the looks of it. Then we have Arborea, which isn't that the card game where everybody's a monster? Nope, it's a completely different game. Yeah, I don't recognize any of these games. So I might check to see if they're on Steam and if they're maybe coming to PC, but yeah, you're between a rock and a hard place where if your game is even a double I indie, and frankly, even if your game is just a single I indie, you can do a self-announcement and a live stream to get more attention than releasing your game at PAX or showing off your game at PAX, because then PAX just becomes this mess of messages. It's a bad time to announce things. And you definitely see that with AAA games, because there's no AAA games presence at PAX games. PAX events are kind of not about that, and I don't think they're ever going to be about that. Here, Game of Sutra has an article. Miniclip has acquired the UK mobile studio 8 Pixels Square. I haven't heard of either one of those companies. And here's that same article. Updated. Sin Episodes Emergence has vanished from the Steam libraries. Let's see. This was just updated with a statement from Night Dive Studios, which then got updated with them actually releasing Sin Gold. Now, I might be a little confused there. Maybe Sin Episodes is a different game than Sin Gold, so maybe they took down 2 or 3 different Sin games and they're in the process of re-releasing them all. Or maybe not. TechRaptor has an article here. The coronavirus may delay new Super Smash Bros. Ultimate Fighters. Of course, the creator of the Smash Bros. Series doesn't want to work on it, so that would be a great excuse not to. Let's see. Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, I thought was already out. So I think what they're really saying is new fighters in Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, because they were just trickling out new fighters, which honestly there's more than enough fighters already in the game, so a slight delay wouldn't be a big deal. Game of Sutra has an article. Afterthought is hiring an Unreal Engine 4 programmer. Are we up to Unreal Engine 4? I guess we are. Henderson, Nevada. I still thought we were using Unreal Engine 3. TechRaptor has an article here. Persona 5 Royale may be too familiar for fans, which is to say that it feels just like Persona 5 itself. Also, the scene that they deemed controversial and edited out and censored got rewritten badly, and it really didn't satisfy anybody that they were afraid might be offended, or anybody on Reset Era that was claiming they were going to be offended. So yeah, it wasn't worth their time. Honestly, anytime something like that pops up from Reset Era, they should just not respond to it. Just make no comment. No comment. No cuts, no changes if you're going to say anything. Gamatsu has the Famitsu sales from 3.9 to 3.15. This will be interesting to see how many items have how the sales have gone down compared to the previous month, just because of people self-isolating. Neo is at the top, Pokemon Mystery Dungeon, then Pokemon Shield and Sword. My Heroes One Justice made 4 for the Switch. I'm surprised about how high that is. I guess that tells you My Hero Academia is super popular in Japan. Minecraft, then Mario Kart Deluxe, then Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. See, it is out. Then Ring Fit Adventures. People having trouble finding Ring Fit Adventures, but yeah. Let's see, where were we? Winning Post 9, Splatoon 2. The vast majority of these are Nintendo Switch consoles, which again does not sell well for the PlayStation 5. Persona 5 Scramble, not Persona 5 Royale. There. Just Dance 2020 is new and it's ranked 26th. And then Dragon's Quest for the Switch sold 2,271 units. And then the Switch Lite and the Switch, yeah, that seems like that's significantly fewer sales than hardware. And then the PlayStation 4 Pro, only 97 new 3DS LLs, and only 58 Xbox Ones, X's or S's. The numbers do look low. And I imagine the numbers will look somewhat lower going forward, particularly hardware, because I could see a lot of parents not being willing to order and have even a Switch delivered. They want to get to that at the store, where games are less likely to be damaged in the mail or stolen in the mail. At least that's the feeling I would suspect a lot of people having. Gematsu has an article. The Inazuma 11 Great Road of Heroes is facing development difficulties. The level 5 president hopes to announce a release plan by April. This is the soccer anime game. I don't know why it should be running into development difficulties, and it certainly doesn't bode well for the game, which, by all looks, is not actually that useful, or not going to be that popular anymore. Here I'll go ahead and show, this is the bug section of wizards.com. Audio sound bug, play audio while minimized. It has 34 votes. It's on the second page. There are things under the bug tracker that have like 1,200 votes and then 760. So if people would go and vote that would be nice, so that they actually look at it. I don't think it matters too much. But yeah. You could also just go through this and see all the bugs other people are having. And it's not great. Really not a great list of bugs that should be persistently happening amongst the players of your collectible card game. I don't think I'm going to get the Capcom bundle, and I don't think there would be like a 4th or 5th game bundle that would come out. So there's nothing on the Humble Bundle of interest. And I do have probably about 10 or 15 games that I'll curate. And then that brings us back to our Twitter feed. Streets of Rage is composed by Oliver Derrivere, apparently. I guess you know what? I'll just show that tweet and not even open that. So yeah, this person is composing Streets of Rage 4, for whatever that means. There's a 100 Doors game, Escape from School, came out on Steam. I'm gonna just name it because I probably we'll curate it out. Let's see. Square Enix implements a work-from-home policy due to COVID-19. I'm sure the Square Enix employees will appreciate that quite a bit. Let's see. What else do we have here? It might be that there really isn't too much. Lego shut down all their stores, which is not a big surprise. I'm trying to keep an eye on Lego to see if maybe they put some of their games on sale. Some of their Lego sets on sale. Let's see. DayZ continues lurching forward, making Bohemia lots of money. It's an article. Carnegie Mellon University is holding a game design teaching track facility. Track faculty. Interesting. I wonder what the qualifications on that would be. See if there's anything else worth mentioning. All these pop-ups when you hover over things. I like a little bit more delay on Twitter. Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 Remastered leaked by a ratings board. Which that's a bad statement for the Call of Duty series, because that means they're focusing on old games instead of making new good games. Let's see. Apparently One Piece Pirate Warriors 4 has some new characters. I didn't know they were adding any content to that game. That game, I think, came out almost a year and a half ago. Or at least it feels like it's been a year and a half. Let's see, still looking. You know, for as much poop that GameStop gets for ruling itself essential retail and not closing down, they kind of have an interesting argument. If people are going to self-isolate and be stuck in their houses, they need video games. They don't need to go to a store to get video games, but it would certainly suck if all those sales ended up going directly to others, Amazon.com, and considering that's pretty much the only people that could even deliver video games. And I don't even think Amazon.com right now is delivering video games. They're focusing on delivering food and medical equipment. So if you are a kid and you're bored out of your mind, GameStop, a quick pop into GameStop might be useful. But there's better ways to do that, certainly. Here's what you could have done. You could have had several employees come in and actually give more hours than you normally do, or at least do the average amount of hours that you usually give to employees, and have the employees just act as delivery boys and deliver the packages by hand like Amazon does with its employees, and just say, alright, we're going to make you a route and give you a map, and we're going to give you a list of places where you're going to deliver these packages, and there's going to be one person in the store grabbing the packages, and he's going to clean everything off and wear gloves, and he's going to put those packages at the front of the store, and he's going to stand at the back of the store, and an employee is going to come every 15 minutes. A different employee will come and grab a new package and then go and deliver that, with nobody actually getting anywhere close to 6 feet, within 6 feet of each other. And there you have a solution that keeps employees working and getting paid. You have sales happening and getting delayed, and you just use the store as your shipping facilities, which you're probably already doing anyways to some extent, to deliver these kind of games. Alright, well, I feel like I've been incredibly slow, and I have no idea how long I've been streaming. I probably could see that if I looked on my indicator somewhere, but it says, yeah, actually I don't think there is a timer here. Maybe I should find a timer. That's going to be it for the stream, though. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. If you want to further follow me on any social media sites, there's a whole bunch of links down below in the description box. And if you want to support me further, there's a link to Patreon, or you can friend me on Steam and gift me a game off my wishlist. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.